55-inch 4K 60Hz HDR Android Smart TV with Samsung 10-bit VA panel for 40,000 Indian rupees. This is a product that you should buy even if you are not planning to buy a TV. Hey guys, I am Siddharth and this is Mi TV4 review. The Mi TV4 looks stunning, there is no doubt about that. When they said that this was the thinnest LED TV in the world, the first TV which came into my mind was LG's wallpaper TV, which is of course thinner than the Mi TV4, but that's an OLED. So they are technically correct when they say that this is the thinnest LED TV. Now when they say that it's only about 4.9mm thick, they obviously mean that the display panel is 4.9mm, but the TV at its thickest point is around 5cm. Because to truly make it 5mm, they would have to detach the internals from the display like LG. That being said, if you want a similarly designed TV from other brands, it might cost you more than 5 times the amount Xiaomi is charging you for this TV. The point here is that the fact that this can even be compared to those high-end TVs from those traditionally mainstream brands in the design department, which isn't the first priority of someone looking for an affordable big screen TV, is a really big deal. There's minimal bezel around it, so the content on it feels quite immersive. So the design of this TV is not just good, but it is one of the best looking TVs out there at any price point. Xiaomi ships it with a table stand which you can use if you want to, but I think that you should really mount it on a wall, the mount for which is sold separately for 400 rupees. The display panel being so thin does feel fragile, but I saw the installation guy being less than optimally careful with it, and I saw the panel flex to some degree, but nothing broke, so even though you will have to be very careful while handling it, you won't have to be extremely or unreasonably careful. One thing to note is that after being wall mounted, even if you touch it very lightly, it wobbles quite a bit, so just take care of that while cleaning. Coming on to ports, it has AV in at bottom with an SPDIF out. This is a digital output, which means that you cannot plug your speakers in directly like most other smart TVs today, so you'll have to invest in a DAC that accepts coaxial in. You can also just use a Bluetooth adapter and connect your speakers to TV wirelessly using Bluetooth. On the left side, you have 3 HDMI ports, one of which has ARC support, and 2 USB ports, one of which is a 3.0 port. The position of these ports is super terrible, and it is almost impossible to insert anything into the ports after wall mounting it. There is almost no space left behind the TV after wall mounting it, and the body of the TV blocks direct access to the ports, so you'll have to reach back inwards, which is very difficult. If you practice enough, maybe you'll be able to insert an HDMI port in 5 minutes. So just make sure that you have your HDMI cables and a USB extension plugged in before wall mounting it to keep you from losing your mind before you are able to enjoy 4K content on your new TV. You also have an Ethernet port if you want to use a wired internet connection, and this TV actually has a TV cable receiver which you can use if you have something against technology. Coming on to the most important part, the display is a Samsung SVA 4K 60Hz HDR panel which is pretty high end. The colors are very good and you would have to be looking carefully to notice a difference between this and higher end panels. The panel gets sufficiently bright and dim too, and you can adjust the brightness quickly, which is convenient. The backlight isn't very consistent. If you look closely, you can notice some inconsistencies in the backlight, especially on white background, but this isn't a big deal, and from a normal viewing distance and with typical content on the screen, you will not notice it at all. But it has to be mentioned as it is a noticeable difference between this panel and higher end ones. On paper, it has a contrast ratio of 6000 to 1, which is 6 times more than your typical IPS panel, but I think that you could find better blacks on higher end panels. It has a dynamic brightness feature, which can adjust the brightness according to the content that is on the screen. It looks good and works well. It can really help in making the black levels seem better in scenes with low light, but in some cases, it can change the brightness too quickly, which can become distracting, so I have turned it off. The dynamic contrast and color modes on this TV also work well, and may make the picture look more realistic depending on the scene. It also makes the black levels appear better, and doesn't introduce any weirdness like the dynamic brightness setting. VA panels typically don't have the best viewing angles, and this panel is an example of that. The viewing angles are fine for the most part, but there is a slight loss of saturation and contrast when you move away from the center. From all the angles that you should be watching your TV, it's not a problem, but moving beyond the 40-degree point, you will notice the change in the picture quality. It's not a big deal, but it is noticeable. The display also has a semi-gloss coating. It's not glossy and reflective like I read in some reviews, but it's also not as matte as other TVs. I am happy with this choice as I think it's a good balance of diffusion while retaining the image quality, but you of course cannot have a bright light source like this LED tube light reflecting off it. Finding HDR content isn't easy, and even 4K or even good 1080p content is not easy to get in India. So when you do have the high resolution files, the 55-inch screen gives you a really incredible experience. The quality of Full HD TV services in India never feels like the 1080p you would find even on YouTube, but it is watchable. Anything below 720p looks unacceptable for me on this TV. So just try to get good quality content that this TV deserves to play and you'll get a really great watching experience. We also tested this panel for gaming, and while the response time is fine at 8 milliseconds, there is a significant input lag which will make playing fast-paced games difficult to play. This is the case with most TVs, so it's not surprising, and you can play slower paced games like Witcher 3 or GTA 5 without any problem, but with competitive games like Rocket League and Rainbow Six Siege, you're really better off gaming on a monitor. Just have a listen to the delay between the mouse click and the gunshot on the screen. It also switches to a monitor display profile when you plug in your PC, and there is also a game mode which lowers the input lag to some degree, but it's still not good enough for competitive gaming. Before we go on with this review, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel if you are liking this video so far. So this has Android 6.0 operating system with Patchwall UI. The operating system is also modified and it's actually called MIUI TV. Patchwall UI is okay, but I don't like it a lot. It has a lot of free content for India, but every time I found something of interest, it started asking for money. The bigger issue I have is that it's quite restricted and uncustomizable, which is fine for a TV, but it could definitely have been better. The good part is that it's quite fast and doesn't lag or stutter, so it is pleasant to use and it looks good and modern. Being an Android TV means that you can install most of the Android apps. I found that if you directly try to install a downloaded APK from internet, it may not be able to install it due to the complex name of the APK file, so make sure you rename your APKs to something simple and short before trying to install. Being able to install any APK means that this TV is very versatile. You can install ES File Explorer and manage your files like a PC, install Chrome and browse websites, and install MX Player, which has online subtitles and audio synchronization adjustment. You can also install GeoTV and GeoCinema and watch a lot of content for free. I also tried Amazon Prime Video, but both the app and the website didn't work for some reason. It has a version of YouTube installed, which lags and has a terrible UI, so you can install a newer version of YouTube TV. YouTube app only reaches up to 1080p, which is quite a disappointment, but with modded YouTube I was able to reach 1440p, which still isn't perfect, but a lot better than 1080p. It has an M-Logic 64-bit quad-core processor and 2GB of RAM with 8GB of internal storage. It performs very well for a TV and also has hardware support for H.265 HEVC codec, which is really great if you are not a Netflix person. It even played a 4K HEVC and a 4K 60fps HDR file, which take a lot of processing. So if you want to watch any video content, there is no need to plug in a laptop or a PC, as this will play any video format even in 4K HDR 60fps and in HEVC codec. You can also install Android games on it, though it won't play the most intensive of 3D titles. The TV also crashed and had to be restarted once when I was watching a 2K video on YouTube, so that is a stability issue. But I don't think that it's a problem because it only happened once and I've otherwise watched a lot of YouTube on 2K without a problem. One disappointment I found was that the UI is rendered only at 1080p and then upscaled to 4K, so it's not real 4K. This may be a limitation of Android OS itself, so no fault of the TV here, but this definitely means that the UI elements aren't as sharp as they could be. This is a minor problem, and if you do not understand what I am talking about, then it probably won't bother you at all. When you play any 2K or 4K content though, all of the pixels get displayed, so even though the UI is at 1080p, the video content is unaffected. Another big issue I have with this is that I couldn't find a way to turn the screen off without shutting down the TV. The only way to shut down the display was to start the set-top box, switch to it, and then power the set-top box off. So if you don't have a set-top box, you can only power the TV off, which is like turning your smartphone off, and it takes a while to power off. Powering on takes around 30 seconds, but if you only turn the display off, it will wake up instantly, and because this is an ARM CPU, it will consume very little power just like your phone. The thing with smartification of things is that the smart features matter here because the Chromecast Ultra costs around Rs 7,000 in India, which is a significant amount for someone looking to buy a TV for Rs 40,000, and even that won't have as many features as this TV. Xiaomi supplies this with a 11-button Bluetooth remote. Once you pair it, it works well, and because it's not an infrared remote, you also don't have to point it at the TV for it to work. I had ordered this TV without reading much about it, so I thought that this will also have the ability to be used as a pointer like LG's Magic Motion remote, and that this will also have a microphone. But this is a very basic remote, and it only has these 11 buttons for control, so you will have to plug in a mouse and a keyboard if you want to use apps like Chrome. You can use both the Bluetooth mice and keyboards and wireless combos which come with a receiver, which you will have to plug into the TV's USB port. You can also use your phone as a remote to control the TV over Wi-Fi using the Mi TV app. It works well, and a really cool feature is that if you turn your phone to landscape, it will stream the content of TV on your phone. And then you can touch to select things on TV, which is really great and means that you won't need a mouse for occasional use of apps that require a pointer. If you long press the menu button, you can directly reach the TV settings, which is a good shortcut, though I think that they could include more shortcuts like this on this remote. The Patchwall UI also has a feature where it can show what is going on different channels on a single screen. Xiaomi is supplying the Mi IR cable with the TV for free for a limited time, after which it will cost 250 rupees. This system works very well, though all it does is get information of content on channels from the internet, and when you select an item, switch to that channel on the set-top box. You can also go to next or previous channel using the remote and can also use it to turn the set-top box on and off. This TV also has Miracast built in, which is really great. You can stream your phone directly on the TV screen. The display and sound quality of the stream here isn't the best, and one annoying issue about this is that if you have a newer phone with rounded corners and 18:9 display like my Mi Mix 2 or Google Pixel 2 or Galaxy S8 or S9, it won't display the content on full screen as ratio is different than that of the TV, and it will also display the rounded corners, which is not great. If you use any Bluetooth device while also using Miracast, you'll get an unacceptable delay in the audio. So this feature is great for when you want to show something from your phone on the big screen, but you are really better off watching movies from a USB drive and watching YouTube directly in the TV instead of streaming it from your phone. Moving on to the sound quality, it is quite average for a thin smart TV. The sound is fine for voices, but for music and to feel the atmosphere in movies, you will definitely have to go with external speakers or a home theater setup. You can use Bluetooth to connect your wireless devices like speakers, receivers or headphones, and this works very well. Xiaomi did not bring their Mi soundbar to India, which would have been a really great combination with this TV, especially as the cheaper versions of this TV are going to get better speakers. Xiaomi has teamed up with Jeeves in India to provide installation and on-the-spot servicing for this TV. My experience with them was fine. The installation people came the next day of the delivery, which was on a Sunday. It was the second Mi TV delivered in my city, and the installation people were not optimally careful with the handling. I think that I would not have held the TV from its thin panel, which flexed more than I liked, but they assured me that they knew what they were doing and nothing broke, so I cannot complain. So in conclusion, I think that there are very few products which I can recommend as much as the Mi LED TV 4. The quality and features that you are getting for the price is almost crazy. Xiaomi has proven itself in the smartphone segment, but I think that the TV market is really going to change after Xiaomi's entry. They have also launched their smaller Mi TV 4A in 32 and 43-inch panels, which have HD and Full HD resolution. People cannot buy enough of these TVs, and even I couldn't get it in the first sale. Hotcakes do not sell as fast as these. So while you could get a little better quality on the display on the highest end TVs from LG, Sony and Samsung, the price difference is really not worth it in my opinion, unless you want one of those LG wallpaper OLED TVs for 13 lakh rupees. You are getting one of the most feature-filled and quality TVs, and you are getting it at a price that is not seen before for the quality and the hardware that you are getting. So if you have even the slightest intention of buying a TV, you should really consider going for the Mi LED TV 4 or any other of the Xiaomi's available TVs, unless you have a good reason to buy something from Samsung, Sony or LG. So that was it for this review. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you found it helpful. The links to buy this TV are in the description. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.